The Bank of America Institute has released the consumer checkpoint for the month of June. Debit and credit card spending increased by 0.8% year over year. That's down from the growth from the previous month, where it was up by 1%. Joining us right now to break it all down is Liz Everett Krisberg. She's the head of Bank of America Institute. Liz, what is this telling us?
Well, I think the headline number was up, but really what I was paying attention to in the data this month is the seasonally adjusted SAR number, which was down 0.9. That's the first time we've seen consumer spending actually contract in over a year. So there is a bit of a change here. Now, when we dig into the details and I look at the composition of that spending, and when I also look at wage growth, which actually accelerated again, I'm a little less concerned. But that pullback in spending was driven by a couple of factors.
Well, but before we do, I mean, this has been a long time coming. People keep saying, oh, the recession is coming, the recession is coming, the recession is coming. Your data has said, no, we don't see any sign of it.
We have been saying, well, what we've seen in the data is that spending continued to accelerate. But this month, for the first time, we saw it pull back, again, looking at it on a seasonally adjusted SAR basis. But again, going into what was driving that, I think there were a couple of factors. One, gas prices were down. Gas spending was down 1%. That's because of prices.
Okay.
Two, weather was kind of like it is in New York today, unseasonably cold, rainy. But I think the most important thing that we saw that drove this was a payback to the tariff buy-ahead. So in March, in April, you saw consumers loading up on durables, on autos, on electronics in anticipation of tariffs. And electronics, specifically, in March, they were up 4%. In April, they were up almost double that, 8%. In May, they pulled back. They were down a little over 1%. So I think you're seeing a little bit of that payback. But again, the other offset that I think about is what's going on in the wages, right? So there's a couple seasonal factors there, but wage growth accelerated again. And we had seen wage growth slowing. Lower income wages went up from 1.5 to 1.9, and that wage growth, that after-tax wage growth, is really what drives the consumer.
And this is based on the direct deposits that you have coming into your accounts.
Exactly.
So this is kind of like the ADP data, but you're seeing it directly into the
We're
accounts.
seeing the after-tax amount coming into households' accounts. And we're also looking at it kind of on the full household level. So the money you're getting from your standard kind of corporate traditional job, but also if you're supplementing it with gig work or whatnot, you're looking at the whole picture. And what we're seeing there is households' wage growth is accelerating again, which, again, lets me feel a little bit more comfortable.
Okay, so
with this pullback.
A little bit of a pullback, but you're basically saying don't worry about it.
I'm not worried yet. Yeah. I'm not worried yet. And again, the biggest factor in my mind is what's going on with wages. So one of the other things I think is interesting when we look at the wages is there's been a disconnect between wage growth and spending between the generations. So younger generations' wage growth are accelerating faster than older generations, but older generations are spending more. And one of the things that helps explain that, we think, is we looked at the data for younger generations, and we're seeing more millennials and more Gen Z consumers use alternative payment methods. So BNPL in particular is starting to accelerate again after that growth has really been declining.
BNPL, what's that?
Buy now, pay later.
Oh, okay.
So what we can see in our data is not, we don't have a buy now, pay later product, but we can see if you've put that on your card and you're making a payment to a BNPL company.
Meaning that they're feeling a little more stressed and not willing to...
Well, maybe they're feeling more stressed, or maybe they're just taking advantage of the longer term to pay it out, right? And we now have 10% of younger consumers, of millennials and Gen Zs, who have used BNPL. It's a lot higher than older consumers, only 5% of Gen X and even lower of older consumers. But this could be, potentially, you could be worried that people are putting things on BNPL because they can't afford it. But when you look at the full picture of the data that we're seeing, we're not seeing those younger consumers who are using BNPL have higher utilization or spending more on it.
So you think they're just being smart, taking advantage of it?
I think they're just taking advantage of it.
That makes
sense.
They're
just taking advantage of it.
Anything else that jumps out at you?
I mean, the only other thing I would talk about is in terms of the composition of spending, we did see services spending continue to drive, saw a big uptick in restaurant spending. And for the first time really this year, we didn't see an uptick in airline spending, but we did see that recover a little bit. So that services seems to be coming back.